welcome to Sunrise Life, the podcast where we have deep conversations with fellow freelance models. And today I have Meghan Claire on the line. Say hello.
Hey, it's good to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much. I know that last time we initiated a call, but there was like a power outage in your area and it was just a bit of a hurdle, but we're back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for your flexibility on this. I'm really excited to get to know you better in this recording.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for doing that.
Yeah. All right. So, for the listeners and for myself, can you describe how you first got into modeling?
Yeah, sure. I was waitressing while in university. So I was getting my university degree at UC Santa Cruz and was waitressing in the evenings. I'm like, I need a little more of an income while I'm at university. So I went on Craigslist. Craigslist was very popular back then. I don't think it is so much anymore, but I think we all still know what it is. I went on Craigslist and looked under the gig work section, thinking I could just get like a couple one-off jobs once in a while. And I found art photography student posted something for a fine art nude shoot, $40 an hour. That was back in like 2008. And I'd never, modeled before. And I thought, well, I grew up going to art galleries and museums, fine art museums with my mother as a child, and grew up with an appreciation of film photography as well, and Edward Weston's work and all that. And I'm like, I think I'd be comfortable doing art nude modeling for art nude photography. And so I reached out to him, I did the modeling session, and it went so well. Like, I really just felt connected to my body and my skin in a way that I'd never felt before. It felt like a really beautiful creative outlet. And he connected me with another photographer who was, a professional photographer. And then they said, hey, you should put the work up on Model Mayhem. And then things just took off from then.
Wow, that's awesome. So, right off the bat, your first shoot was an artistic nude shoot.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like one of those abandoned buildings on the coast, on the Northern California coast type of ones. But yeah, just art nudes in an abandoned building. And then from then on, it was mostly all nudes in nature for a while before I started branching out into studio work. And then I actually found like the drawing and painting groups afterwards, after getting into the photography. So a lot of people think it's the other way around. People who aren't in our niche, in our community, think I probably, when I say I'm an art model, they think of the drawing and painting groups. I'm like, no, but I did do that too. The Bay Area was a great place to do that.
Yeah, I imagine the Bay Area is a great place for the painting and art and all that. So, okay, I was just like visualizing this first shoot, like from an outsider's perspective, like somebody who's not in the model photography world, finding a gig on Craigslist and then having it be a nude shoot at an abandoned building somewhere. From an outsider, that might sound like, whoa, for real? Were you nervous at all, or?
No, and the photographer was really sweet, trying to make me feel comfortable and safe. So he was, first of all, he was about the same age as me. And like I said, he was an art student. So he had that going for him. He had a website up of his art photography. So I was able to see what kind of work he was doing. He was mostly doing clothes stuff. I think this was him branching out into art nudes. So I think this was his first art nude shoot too. But he had really nice quality photography work. So in that sense, I felt like, okay, he knows, he knows what he's doing, and he's actually here for the shoot, not for some other weird reason. And then I didn't ask for it. He even showed me his ID when we first met in person so that I could see that his ID matched who he had said he was and his online presence and all of that.
Well, that's great. Make sure that you felt comfortable and that he's definitely not like a psycho or anything like that.
Yeah, and I think he paid me up front too, which, is kind of common with photo shoots anyways. But since, like I said, he was an art student and knew, like, wasn't used to hiring models either. I just think that it was a really positive first experience that was someone who was very considerate and professional.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome, and then he recommended you to another photographer, and that was just another, like, step on the way to getting your model mayhem started, and then the rest is history, alright?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Then by the time I finished university, I could have kept doing archaeology work, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna, because my partner at the time, my was a fellow archaeology student, and he's like wanting me to do that with him. I'm like, the modeling's going really well, and I'm enjoying it more. I'm gonna keep doing this instead. So yeah, it just took off.
Do you think that you'll eventually pursue archaeology again?
No, no, I don't.
Wow, okay. Well, it's good to start somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm really grateful that I did my degree in anthropology. I'm passionate about it. It's a big foundational part of like how I see the world, and my interests still today align with a lot of what I was studying back then. But archaeology was nothing I had ever planned to do. That was more of an influence from my partner at the time.
I see. Yeah. And so after you got into modeling, then you left the potential of archaeology behind and now you're on to new horizons.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Cool. And so the timeline from then from the Craigslist work, moving on to starting your model mayhem and then where you are now, how has that timeline of your career progressed?
I mean, that was back in, like I said, 2008, 2009. So it's been a good 15-year plus run.
Wow.
I do have a daughter, so I did take about a 5-year, 6-year hiatus. I thought I was done, and then I missed it and got back into it when she was old enough for me to start doing freelance work again. But yeah, I did try doing a more stable nonprofit job when she was younger, and that was good for a little bit when she was really young. But other than that, it's just this has been a really big part of who I am and how I love to create and move and connect in the world. I really love the community, and I love the opportunity to create art in nature.
That's awesome. And you've been traveling quite a bit as well, is that right?
Yeah, both for modeling work and just as a personal lifestyle choice as well.
Awesome. So when I look at your photos, I see that you do like a great variety of like outdoor and like really like soft but also majestic portraiture. So you've definitely got a vibe going on and like it I can really get a sense of like what kind of modeling that you want to portray based on the work that you share in your portfolio. Is that something that you've intentionally curated?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I like to model and do shoots and later share work that feels really aligned with my values and who I am as a person. So I'm not much for putting on a different persona, we'll say.
I see. Yeah. And has that ever caused like a clash when a photographer is reaching out to work with you and wanting you to put on some kind of persona that's not your thing?
I will do it on occasion. I'm not very likely at all to share that work later, but I will do it on occasion, but very rarely. And, of course, it depends on the intentions and vision of the photographer when they share that with me, whether or not I'm gonna say yes to that. But yeah, when I feel it's coming from a good place and they've like put a lot of thought into this and it's a sincere intention on their part. Like I did one where I was exploring different feminine historical figures, like that's and oh, I don't know, it was very interesting. That was, like, with someone from New York who was very interested in theater and classical figures in history. So that one was, like, a cool exploration of personas that felt more archetypal, we'll say, more classical, more in alignment with, that classical aspect that I like to portray. But generally, I'm the model who, if I'm showing up for a studio shoot and they have a whole rack of wardrobe, they're looking at me, they're looking at the wardrobe, they're looking back at me, and they're being like, "You know what? Let's just stick with nude." I'm like, "Yeah, great, thanks." That's
Yeah, I get what you mean because sometimes the outfits are just cheesy or don't fit you right.
yeah, yeah. So I've been lucky in that way that I feel like most people get a sense a strong sense of who I am and how I want to be portrayed, and just honor and go with that without me having to set it as restriction, we'll say.
Yeah, no, I get that. And as you're describing it, it makes me think about how modeling has like evolved with technology over the years, where like before social media, we were all like, it was all in newspapers and magazines and TV. And now that we can all run our own social medias, you can put on your own like vibe. And then people who want to like create within that niche and that vibe can work with people like you.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And like, I guess looking back into history, I suppose, as I'm thinking historically now, like, I guess the only model that I can really think of off the top of my head that had her own vibe already was, like, Betty Page.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. So when you found that first job on Craigslist and you're like, "Oh, let's give this a try," do you feel like you already had an idea of like, "Oh, this might become something and I might, like, want to, like, craft my aesthetic, like, in the future," or how did that evolve?
No, not at all. I never thought it would become something. When they said you should put your work on Model Mayhem and the work that we've done so far on Model Mayhem, and you'll get more work from that. I logged on to Model Mayhem. I'm like, what is this website? I'm like, okay, I'll give it a try though. And of course, you get for every one good, because back then everyone was using Model Mayhem. It was very active, unlike today.
Yeah.
So back then you get like one legitimate request for every 50 that are like absolutely not the kind of work that I'm going to do, or not even a sincere request, but enough came through that were genuine, sincere requests for art modeling. I ignored all the biker lingerie ones, and I think that was the bulk of the bulk of the requests. And I started to see the value in it, and I really enjoyed the collaborations and work that was coming through from it. And I was already meeting, because I was in the Bay Area, I was already meeting other professional art models right off the bat, and so that, like, sense of community was already there from the beginning.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, that's great that it sounds like you had like a really great introduction into like the beginning of your modeling career and then coming into a community after a while and involving with artists and then with the painters as well. So like I think that like just comparing it with my previous experience and like the variety of the other people that I've interviewed on here, it kind of just goes to show me that like knowing like how you want to be portrayed and being able to say no to the work that would also be potentially paying work if it's not like something that you see yourself as, then like over time if you're saying yes to everything, then that probably would be, like, more of the path to burnout.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just refreshing to hear that you are able to differentiate that from the beginning because a lot of people have to learn that the hard way.
Yeah, I think high integrity with myself has always been one of my, like, core values and guiding principles in life. So, and money much less so. I'll always prioritize integrity and being in alignment with my values over making some money.
Yeah, that's awesome. Would you say that that's something that you were raised with or something that you learned on your own?
Maybe it's something I was raised with. Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
If you don't mind me asking, are your parents, like, supportive of your modeling?
Yeah, they both are. My dad's not seen it by any means. He's not seen my work. I'll share an occasional clothes portrait with him.
Yeah.
But yeah, my mom's always been supportive of it. It was actually my stepdad who mentioned to me that people still life model. Once I got into modeling for photography, he's like, "Why don't you model for any like the drawing or painting groups or professional painters?" And I was like, "People still do that? People still draw from the live nude figure? That's amazing." Because I've always been a bit of a, what's the word for it? Somebody who, yeah, nostalgic for a past that I never even lived. So in love with all things classical. And And so the idea that I could do that now, in this modern era and connect with that and lineage, we'll call it, of art muses, painters of old really appealed to my romantic side. So yeah, I jumped at that once I discovered that existed too. But that's what I love about this community is that I feel like very few people actually willingly like make a willing choice of like, yeah, that's what I'm gonna do because it's so unknown. Most people don't even know that this exists and that this is out there. And so I feel like most of us have just kind of fallen into it in one way or another.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, I was the same way. I would have never guessed that this would be like a full-time income or career path at all because mainstream media mostly just says that a model is a certain type of look, a certain career, and you have to be commercial, runway, fashion, and all that.
Yeah.
Did that ever cross your mind, like having to compare like what your career looked like to what like mainstream agency represented modeling career looked like?
Yeah, yeah, sure, it did a little bit. I it's never anything that I did or got into, and I've just always been grateful that this particular facet of modeling doesn't require a certain height or body type or weight. But yeah, I'm really glad I found this first instead of agency modeling first.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I thought that I was going to be aiming for petite agency when I started out, and I'm glad that I ended up just sticking with the creative freelance people because it does feel very much like a community. And the stories that I've heard from models who started out working in an agency, it just seems a bit more like cutthroat and inhumane. Not necessarily that all agencies are like that. That's just a lot of the stories that I heard.
Yeah, from what I've heard, it's been a very demeaning, belittling, and body issue producing industry for a lot of the models who've crossed over and from the agency modeling into the art modeling.
Most certainly, yeah. And part of that is, there's a stigma attached with like artistic nude modeling. It's in the fact that you are nude. Have you ever had to deal with facing that stigma with any of your friends, family, or colleagues? I suppose beyond that first partner that you had that you were in archaeology with.
Yeah, yeah. I think yeah, partners was the biggest one. So I mean, I used to not share what I do transparently. I would just say I am a freelance artist or I work with photography or I model. And even modeling, because then that comes with its own stereotypes of not being intelligent, basically. Yeah, that's the big one. When you hear the word model, you think, oh, somebody who can only work with their body because they don't have brains, right? That's the stereotype. So I would even hesitate away from that. So I would just, I would avoid telling people what I did for work. And it took me a long time to get comfortable just transparently saying it. And now it's so much fun because everyone's so shocked and so surprised and like, but what is that? What does that look like? What does that mean?
Yeah.
It's really it's really fun. It's really fun for me now to have that conversation with people. But before I guess I was judging myself for it and fearing other people's judgment. And so it was a conversation I would avoid and then did not like having. And I like I said, I integrity is a value of mine. So I don't like to lie to people directly. And so I don't like to lie to people though, but I would really have a hard time then when if they dug in and asked more questions, eventually it would come out, because it's just like, well, I'm a freelance artist. Well, what does that mean? Okay, well, I work with photographers. Well, what does and then eventually the truth would surface, and I'd be like so tightening up in my chest, like fearing this judgment that really was just a reflection of me judging myself, right? And and I think the nude part bothered me less. I think it was the judgment around modeling that bothered me more. I grew up in a very nude friendly environment. All of my mother's side of the family was very like almost, borderline nudist, not quite full on nudist, but definitely had a lot of aunties growing up that were gardening and boat, like going out, water activities, gardening, building, like all the nature activities nude around me. So that was a fun liberal upbringing in that sense. But yes, it was never so much the nude part that I judged as the modeling part.
Yeah. And you know what? When you describe it like that, I do think that when sometimes like I worry that when I tell somebody that I model that they're going to automatically, come up with a set of personality traits that they believe that I have based on the word model. And you're right, even without the word nudity attached to it. I think that in my experience in the past with, like, strangers that I've told that I modeled, like, a friend of a friend or, like, somebody that I don't know very well, sometimes their behavior kinda shifts to be maybe a little bit more awkward after I've told them that I model, and because of that, I'm like, "Well, maybe they need to get to know me first, and then I drop the bomb on them."
Yeah. Yeah. And then you brought up a good point with partners. And so then I did have partners who, maybe they weren't like fully transparent about how they felt about it, where at first they'd be like, yeah, yeah, it's okay, it's fine. And then you go into the relationship a little bit and realize they're really not okay with this work that I do.
Yeah.
It, it's creating an issue for them. And so yeah, there's that too, which is understandable. You're going in and doing nude shoots with other people, and I really think it helps for them to like already be coming from a pretty liberal frame of mind and be secure in themselves. Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. I think so. Yeah.
Or, if they're not, like, somehow connected to the industry or the community in any way, like, having your partner attend a shoot or, like
I was gonna say that, and I realized I've never done that, so I can't speak to that from personal experience. I do think it would be helpful, but I never did that. Yeah.
Yeah, I've done that.
For photographers' partners. I've heard stories of photographers doing that with their wives, and I've been there and witnessed it before, and I have seen that be helpful before for their relationship.
Yeah, yeah, the same as well with me. I've witnessed photographers who got into it and their wife was, like, not sure about it at first, but then over the years, holding the reflector or, like, helping with the lights or whatever, then they got into it. But I think that I've seen the opposite happen also where, like, the photographer and their partner, like, I don't know, still clash in the end. And I still have times where and this is a point of contention for me. If somebody that I'm shooting with exposes to me that, "Oh, my wife hates that I'm doing this," or "She doesn't know that you're here or that I'm doing this," then automatically I'm just like, "Okay, well, I'm not working with this person again because that's uncool."
Yep. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely not been a comfortable moment for me on a couple of shoots to realize because you don't know going into it, and then they tell you very transparently once you're there, and you're like, okay.
Yeah. Like, why would you, like, expose that information? It's not appropriate. Yeah. But, I mean, it's like it's technically not our business. We're just there to show up and do our job, but it gives you if you have the right to choose or the freedom to choose who you're gonna work with and that makes you feel icky, then
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So moving on, I have a question that I ask everybody on the show. What is one of the crazy photo shoot stories that you've experienced over your career? And it could be crazy weird, crazy good, crazy bad, crazy crazy.
So I gave this some thought because I'd asked you in advance what kind of questions you might be asking me, and you had mentioned that one. And so I did give this some thought, and I went back in time a little bit. It's pretty far back there, but this story is one I don't tell very often, and it has multiple layers of just a crazy photo shoot experience. So I'll go with this one.
Okay.
I was flown to the Northern Territories of Canada for a photo shoot pretty early on in my modeling career. Maybe this would have been like 2011 or so. And I jumped at the opportunity because it was the Northern Territories. I didn't see myself ever going to that part of the world otherwise. I'd always wanted to see the Northern Lights and experience like the really long hours of the day because it's the middle of summer then. And I think they were only having like 2 to 3 hours of darkness at that point. And I'm like, wow, that sounds really amazing and unique. I'd love to do this. But I didn't know the photographer, and I didn't wasn't able to get any referrals or recommendations or any references on the photographer. So I took a risk and I went anyways. So he flew me, he paid for my flight to the Northern Territories and the lodging and the shoot. So everything was covered and paid for. And it was like a 3-day commitment, I think, 3 or 4 day commitment. And fortunately, he brought in another model at some point that I could commiserate with. But
Nice.
yeah, but yeah, at some point another model showed up, but I was there at least the first day or day and a half solo. And he was fine. He was safe and fine, but he treated me like a mannequin the whole time. Every single shot was face the sun, stick your chest out, close your eyes because you're going to look straight into the sun. So just close your eyes and that's it. Just turn, face the sun, and stick your chest out and close your eyes for every single shot. I
Wow.
was like, this man needs to just hire a mannequin. I do not know why he why why he's flown me out here and hired me if I am allowed like no range of motion, no range of expression, no like autonomy on this shoot. It's just the same pose every single
For
time.
3 days.
Yeah. And then he took us to a place, and this is the Northern Territories. I mean, it's got to be one of like the least populated places in the world, and therefore probably has ample pristine nature locations, right?
Uh-huh.
But then he takes me and this other model to a lake with broken glass everywhere and has us get into this lake full of broken glass. And I said something about it beforehand. He's like, no, you don't worry about it. It's fine. I get in, I cut my foot open, of course, on a piece of broken glass, and he's posing us. And I let him know, hey, I've cut my foot open, like my toes bleeding. And he's like, yeah, just face the sun. And so, this is not going well already. No. And then the final thing that happened that made me want to share this story, just because it was such a, I don't know, so many, like, it was cool and it was incredible and amazing and like really upsetting all at once. So he rented a private helicopter for us to go to some more remote location, a little, I don't know, an island in the middle of the lake or private beach or something. So we got to go on this private helicopter ride, which was pretty cool.
Cool.
And through the Northern Territories, it's really beautiful. And we arrive at this private beach with the helicopter driver, the photographer, and the other model and I. And we're there shooting. And then we see a juvenile bear coming down the coast towards us. And there's just, a black bear, the swans, there's a juvenile. And I was like in awe and appreciating being in this wild nature spot with wildlife coming towards us. But they panicked and threw us all into the helicopter. And then they turned on the helicopter and proceeded to chase the bear away down the beach with the helicopter.
What?
Yeah. And this is this is really just like, this is not something that I signed up for, not something that I was okay with at all, not something that I wanted to like be involved with. And of course my voice didn't matter there at all either. And so I felt really, like it was a huge betrayal to my integrity and my values. And like, why are we chasing this wildlife down the beach, creating all this stress and, cortisol in his body and traumatizing him when it's just a juvenile brown bear in the first place? Like, he wasn't even, in my mind, threatening to begin with. Or we could have just sat in the helicopter and waited for him to pass by.
Oh my god. That's I would feel really awkward about that too. That's just, like, to be on a trip like this where it's like the photographer is clearly, like, spending a lot of money on obviously hiring a helicopter and all of this, but then it that does I don't really know how to put that into just a short phrase. That whole situation sounds tense and awkward, but like you said, grateful to be a part of the experience, but at the same time, it sounds like he was treating you like, you know, not a human.
No, yeah, yeah, exactly. So, I don't know why I would expect better treatment of the wildlife, but yeah, yeah, exactly. There was not a lot of consideration for other living beings, we'll say.
And the other model that ended up coming to join you, was she, like, not happy about this whole situation as well?
I don't remember her being as upset by anything as I was. I think, she was a little newer to modeling for sure, and a little more, as newer models can tend to be a little more like, "I'll just go along with whatever is."
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And so, did you ever talk to that photographer again after that trip?
no. No, so I was glad to go home after.
Some people are, like, fine for, like, a few hours of a shoot, but then traveling with them changes the experience a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I could handle a 2-hour shoot where I missed to not that I've ever had that happen again, period, but if I had to do a 2-hour shoot, if I knew signing up for it tomorrow, I'm gonna do a 2-hour shoot where the whole time he just has me look at the sun, close my eyes and face the sun and stick out my chest, I'd be like, all right. Like, the guy's safe and he's okay and, like, whatever. I'll do that because it's just 2 hours of my life. It's okay. But to be on a multi-day shoot with that was
Yeah.
fairly uncomfortable. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure some of the nature areas are like stunning and it inspires creative ideas in yourself, and not being able to contribute any of your own creativity must have been a huge drag.
Yeah, yeah, that and then just the breach of trust when to be in this pristine nature area and taken to a place that was trashed with broken glass and then get cut up and have him not care and expect me to keep modeling like I'm not a human with human needs and a human body. That was a huge breach of trust. And then just to see that disrespect for the local environment and wildlife was just further descent into this is not someone who shares the same values
No.
how in this world as I do. Yeah.
Wow. And it's like a lot of that kind of thing, you wouldn't be able to like screen that person in advance unless somebody else that you were screening them with also had a multi-day
Yeah.
experience with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a challenge. It's like great to get a 3-day booking, but then when it turns into kind of an inhumane experience where like the person that hired you is kind of acting like horrible, then it does kind of like sour the milk.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, I mean, it's not so bad. I think I've been really blessed in my 15 plus year career to not have any horror stories, you know? It's that was like a strange and weird and in many ways also wonderful and in many ways upsetting experience, but I was never, being threatened or in danger, on this trip 3 days with a photographer I had no reference for beforehand. So I know that I mean, I will say I've been lucky and blessed in my career, but also I do always tend to check I do always tend to check references
Yeah.
and those before working with anyone, or if those aren't available, then go from a sense of their work
Yeah.
and their pre-shoot communication. Yeah.
And then when it comes to doing a multi-day type of trip with somebody, I almost feel like in that case, at least something that I do, I don't know if everybody would want to do this, but like having a phone conversation, because then you kind of get like a taste of like their personality and what your experience might be like after multiple days.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely.
But I don't get very many multi-day offers anyway, so it's kind of like a few and far between sort of a thing.
Yeah, they are uncommon. Definitely.
Yeah. I will say though, sometimes when somebody says, "Hey, I want to shoot at this location, let me fly you out." For some reason today, that gives me a bit of hesitation, like, "Fly me out?" Like, 'cause I usually get my own flights. And there's a sense of security in the fact that you have, you know, the flight purchased in your own name because you don't know, like, if something happens, they could cancel your return.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's generally I have one photographer who regularly hires me for multi-day trips, and he always buys the flight, or I can be like, "Hey, can I buy the flight so I can get the credits for it too?" And he'll say yes to that, he never has an issue with that if I ask. So sometimes he gets them, sometimes he has me get them. But this is someone I already had really references on before I ever did. And actually in our first trip together, we just did a one-day road trip together anyways. So I already had the personal references, the more local one-day shoot before I ever did the multi-day flight booking trips with him.
That's good. It sounds like you have a good working relationship established with that photographer.
Yeah, yeah, and that's been a nice relationship over like, a nice working relationship over the years of collaboration, and it is nice to keep working with the same people over and over again because the work does deepen, it does get richer and better, and you fall into a flow state of creating together more easily each time, so I do appreciate those ongoing creative collaboration relationships for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, same. As a fellow model who travels frequently also, it's nice to know that in particular cities or parts of the world that I go to, there's going to be a lot of the same people from the last time I went there that will always want to work with you again, which is comforting and you already know that you'll be safe and respected if you work with those people and it's a good feeling.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, it is.
So what are some other places you've traveled to?
I've done a lot. I live in Mexico most of the year. I'm here in Mexico right now as we're doing this podcast. And so I've done a lot of tours in Mexico. Did one year or two ago here on the Oaxacan coast where I am now. Year ago. And then I've done them out in the cenotes in the Yucatan and Tulum area quite a bit. And then, like, I did an underwater collaborate well, you and Astrid used to do those together all the time, and then I think we couldn't do it that season, and so
Yeah.
Astrid I joined Astrid, yeah. So I love doing the underwater in the cenotes, and where else? Oh, Baja, Mexico as well. Long time ago. But other than that, when was modeling pre having a child, it wasn't yet so common or popular for everyone to be traveling the world with us and modeling. So I did Canada, I did Mexico, I did the US, but it wasn't until after I had a child and stepped away from modeling that all of these international photo tours became a popular thing and that doing tours around Europe became a thing, and so I missed all of that. So I've never, I've traveled on my own time, but I can't do like the long overseas trips for work as a single mom.
Guys,
Yeah, which is a little disappointing because I do love to travel, but I get there on my own time and go there with my daughter instead, so it's fine.
that's awesome. I mean, I talking about Mexico makes me wanna go back. I haven't been there in a few years, and it's beautiful, and the underwater cenotes are definitely one of my favorite places in the world for sure.
Yeah, 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 they're beautiful. And I'm trying to think, I mean, there's just not that many places in the world where you can easily do free diving with that clear of water for photo shoots.
Are there cenotes near you where you live that you like to model on?
No, this part of Mexico doesn't have cenotes. We just have the ocean here and a little bit of hot springs. That's it.
Hot springs are nice. Have you posed in the ocean as well?
I've never gotten to do underwater in the ocean. I would love to try. I'm from a long time ago scuba diving certified, and then I got my free diving certification at the Cenotes in Tulum. So I'm very comfortable in the ocean and all bodies of water. And I think it'd be so magical to do an underwater shoot in the ocean, but never had the opportunity.
Yeah. I it's definitely more of a challenge, but
Yeah.
a different look as well. But I think it's also sometimes a challenge for the photographer because there's it's the water in a lot of the cenotes is so clear and still, but the ocean's always moving and it often has
Yeah.
debris.
Yep. Less clarity, more movement. Absolutely. not as effortless as the cenotes.
Yeah. So you mentioned tours in Mexico. Is that something that you do you organize tours down there?
No, I helped Ash a little bit, but she already had that as a pretty well established event, so I didn't have to do a lot. She was mostly managing that. And then this other one here on the Oaxacan coast, that was mostly with a photographer from Canada who organized it. He asked me for my help organizing it. So it was a bit of a collaboration. And then I organized with that same group of models that came here for the Oaxacan tour. We loved working together so much that the four of us organized a tour on the big island of Hawaii where Bella Trickster lives. She was one of the models and she knows that land well. So we did organize that one. But otherwise I've always just helped, like been a bit of a collaborator on co-organizing tours.
Yeah.
And it's not my favorite thing to do the admin side of things.
Yeah, I get that as well as somebody who has also co-organized. And I honestly think that co-organization would be the best way to go. Like having one person like be the only organizer for any event, I would say that's just a lot of pressure. But it I think everybody who wants to put a trip together like that, like having at least one partner, like Ashford was so amazing, the number side and like such a great travel buddy, and I'm so glad that you were able to step in for that season that I wasn't able to go. And yeah, I love Astrid, and like working with her was always like superb.
Yeah, no, she rocks it on the admin and managing all the details side. She's very impressive in that way. In all the ways. She's very impressive in all ways, but she really impressed me like the both times I've organized things with her of just like how above and beyond she takes managing all the details and making sure everything's in place. It's really impressive.
Yeah, yeah. All right, I have another question that I like to ask everybody on the show, and I call it the rising phoenix moment in your life. And you can relate it to your modeling or to anything. Can you describe a situation where you were faced with some kind of challenge that you had to overcome?
You said it could be related to modeling or not.
Yeah, it could be a personal challenge if you wanted to share something like that.
No, I'll keep it within the modeling realm. I have one that just came to me. Yeah, I alluded to it earlier, but it was having my daughter and I stepped away from modeling thinking I was done, thinking, okay, that was it. That was a beautiful chapter in my life. And then I really missed it. And I just kept missing it more and more. And I think she was about 4 years old, maybe 5, when I started to just like miss it to a point where I'm like, I really think I want to try modeling again. And I had so much insecurities around putting myself back out there in the community as a model. I was like, is anyone going to remember me? Will anyone want to work with me if they know that I've gone through pregnancy and had a baby and I'm older now and then they'll have these judgments that pregnancy has changed my body and I've been out of this for 5 years now. Like, who knows how things have changed. When I left, there was no Instagram. When I came back, Instagram was where the whole community was based. I felt very out of the loop in that way too.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't even know who's still doing this. Like, are any of the models that I know, are any of them still doing it? And so I had all this insecurity around my age, around having gone through pregnancy, around being out of the loop and distance from the community, around coming back into it. And finally, I just decided, I'm going to give it a try. I'll just announce that I'm coming back to my home state of California and see who remembers me, see if anyone still wants to work with me and if I'm accepted, then it's a sign that I'm meant to start doing this again, and if not, then I'll put it aside forever, kind of thing.
Wow.
And so I did. I put it out tentatively that I was back and available for modeling again, that I could come to California on such and such dates. And wow, I was so like it was like receiving a warm embrace. I was just so in love with the reception that I got, with the response that I received. It was just like, everyone that I'd worked with before coming out of the woodwork and discovering, favorite models that were still modeling and were able to help me get started again with like current rates and recommendations on like, what we're using these days and the status of Instagram versus model mayhem kind of thing. Like everything from like emotional, like, yeah, you got this. So glad that you're back to like, here's like the technical stuff you need to know as you hop back into this. And so it just felt like a homecoming and it was really beautiful.
Wow, that's awesome. And like as you were describing that, it just made me so grateful that like if you are like a team player and like you're kind to your fellow traveling models and the photographers that you work with, then you will succeed. Like if you're competitive and cutthroat, then you'll have less connections. But it's such a relief to hear that like all the fears that you had about judgment or like not having connections anymore, they were all those fears like just kind of fell to the wayside once you finally bit the bullet and decided to like make that leap back into modeling.
Yeah. Yeah. And then even once I did, I still had a lot of like, oh, I don't want to tell people I'm a mom now. I don't want to tell people I've had a kid until I have like a portfolio of up to date work and they,
Yeah.
won't judge me for that because they can see what I look like now, and it was so funny, like looking back to think like how much I worried about that. And now we're all retiring at an older age too. Like back when I left modeling in 2013, I think, I don't know. I feel like everyone was retiring in their early 30s or something. I don't know when I wasn't going around asking all the retired models what age they were.
Yeah.
But, but I feel like everyone was retiring a good like 5 to 10 years younger than they are doing today.
Yeah.
I had all the judgments around my age and how I'd be judged for giving birth, and it took me a while to just be like, "Yep, I'm a mom. I have a kid. I have to factor my childcare into these bookings that I'm organizing with you, and not care about how they were going to judge that, and to notice, most people weren't even judging about it.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's good. I'm glad that it was a positive return for you.
yeah,
Yeah. And speaking of age and Model Mayhem versus Instagram, I was actually thinking about this recently because on Model Mayhem, you can type in your age and it's like just part of your statistics, and photographers can search for models and filter out like models of a certain age range. But on Instagram, it's just like, "Oh, I like this person's vibe." Like, they shoot the kind of stuff that I would like to also create, and there's not, like, stats, like, how much do you weigh, and what's your dress size, and how old are you? It's more of, like, how do you wanna portray yourself and not, like, what are my numbers?
yes, yeah. Which is great. That's the upside of it. The downside is, of course, you can't even search people by their location on Instagram. And and the biggest thing is how much it changed how people photograph me.
Oh my god.
And, like getting back into modeling in the peak of the Instagram era and being asked to model while censoring myself or model that was new. I was like, wait, you want me to censor my body in this photo? I don't understand. And now that's just normal. Like, yes, please bring wardrobe. Please wear wardrobe for like half of the shoot so that I have something I can share. And it's been really, I don't know, not my greatest joy to see how much our social media platforms that we rely on has altered how we create art.
Yes. I was ranting about this recently, actually, and I very much on the same page because, like, MySpace is totally obsolete now. At a certain point, Instagram is also going to be obsolete. And if you're driving your creative pathway to fit Instagram's cookie cutter box, and then Instagram dies, then what? You quit photography? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. I'm very passionate about that also. But as much as I am passionate, I'm also guilty of the same thing because I'm like, well, I have to have stuff that I could post on Instagram too. So,
But it's I'm guilty of it too. It's absolutely the reality of the situation, and it it's just hard to see us all there conforming to that when I know that there's like enough of us and enough tech experts amongst us too that like we could all move somewhere else. And every once in a while, you think that there's this migration happening, and then it doesn't happen. So it's just like, okay, Instagram's where we're all at right now, and it's what
Yeah.
we need to conform to. So, all right,
Are you on Blue Sky?
I am, and it just started off with so much fire, and then it just trickled off too.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a very big growth spurt. Well, I can't say very big compared to other platforms that I've been on, but it seemed to be growing really fast the first few weeks, and then it plateaued.
Yep.
And I don't know, I think that that's the experience that I've heard a lot of people have, that they gained a lot of followers and then it's completely plateaued, and now it's like maybe 100 followers a month now get added.
Which is fine. It's not about how many followers I have. It's just that tells me that it's not going to be sustained. People aren't going to keep using and posting and being active there. So I'm not going to keep putting my time and energy there.
Yeah, it needs to grow enough to make it, like, warrant the amount of time and effort to use that platform to interact with people and, be able to find work on there, and I have gotten a tiny bit of work through Blue Sky. So I'm not totally giving up on it, but, like, maybe it's just in the growing, but there have been so many other platforms in the last decade that have kind of done the same thing,
Mhm.
like Vero and MeWe and Imply.vip and various other platforms. I don't know if you ever.
I never try any of them because I always feel like they're not going anywhere. Blue Sky was my first time actually jumping on the bandwagon of like, yes, we're finally migrating somewhere new.
Yeah.
And I actually had hope that we were. And I still do use it once in a while and I still see some traction there. But it's not enough for me to think that we're all gonna come conjoin here now and leave Instagram behind.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would love that.
Yeah. Whatever comes out next, having the ability to search via location, like you were saying, would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, or post travel notices. Like, why other portfolio hosting sites that are kind of competitors for Model Mayhem don't really have that either. All right. Well, anyway, we are nearing our hour. Is there anything else that you would like to discuss or to promote, like future trips that you have upcoming?
No, I'll just say that I am here in this beautiful area on the Oaxacan coast of Mexico until May. So I'm available if anyone wants to come down here to do a shoot. I don't think I'm going to be actively trying to plan or coordinate anything that might change. But but I'm kind of more of like send me an opportunity and I'll go that direction if it feels aligned kind of thing. So I'll just put that out there. I'm in a beautiful place, in a beautiful part of the world. I know lots of good coastal locations here and one epic hot spring location here for anyone who is interested.
That sounds amazing. I hope that tons of photographers message you to come and shoot in your area. So I
Yeah.
think a lot of people right now, as we're approaching the cold of the winter, are thinking of like, all right, after the Christmas season, what warm place do I want to go shoot?
Yeah. 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 And if I get enough interest, we can coordinate it into like a multi-day, multi-person thing. But I'm fine doing one-on-one too. And I do know other models who, like I said, have been down here for a tour down here before and would probably be very happy to come back as well. I also think, well, this is probably speaking ahead, but I also think there's a European model who is planning something for here for the Oaxacan coast for the fall that I'll probably be on that tour if she organizes that. So
Awesome.
things coming up on the Oaxacan coast of Mexico.
That sounds awesome. So then in May, you're going back to California?
Yeah, cool. That's the plan as it stands now. Yeah, I'll probably be in California for most of the summer.
Up in the Bay Area?
Yeah.
I was there last July and there was a quote that kept on coming up during my trip because I went there in July so that it would be warm enough to shoot outside on the coast. And then it wasn't. And Every photographer said I've never experienced a colder winter than San Francisco in the summertime. Something like that. I'm sure you've heard it.
Yeah, it's either a Mark Twain or who is that? Steinbeck. I think it's a Mark Twain. It's either Mark Twain or Steinbeck quote that I've never had a colder winter than a summer in San Francisco.
It's true.
I know. The thing is that the California coast, like the Northern California coast, is warmest in the fall. And even November, even like right now, can be a warmer time of year to shoot on the California coast than June because the summer is when all that coastal fog comes rolling in.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, I definitely experienced that. So I will keep that in mind next time I want to shoot on the coast up there. I'll do fall, maybe
Well,
October or
and
something.
no guarantees. Geez, I mean, just plan to freeze your ass off. But generally speaking, when I did used to live year round on the California coast, the fall was the time I was most likely to be swimming in the ocean.
I see.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Cool. Well, Megan, it's been really great getting to know you over the course of this recording.